Hmm. All right. I think we are live. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we should be live, and I want to make sure I turn off my feedback so that you don't hear me double. But welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. You are tuned into the 2023 Christian Authors on Tour, The Power That Worketh in Us. There it is. I'm so excited that you all are here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this amazing day. Before we get started, I want to share my screen with you just to give you some feedback, some introductions of what you can expect today, June 25th, 2023. Is the 2023 Men of CAOT Virtual Showcase. We have none other than Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. out of Baltimore. He's a Christian author and publisher. And then out of the windy city of Chicago, we have Dwight E. DeRamus, who's also a Christian author and publisher. They will be joining us this afternoon from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. for a inspirational conversation as men of faith, talking and sharing about their writing journeys, their testimonies as Christian authors and publishers, and providing some wisdom nuggets for you all as well. We will have a break, 1 hour break from 5 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock, it's on and popping again. We have the Reverend Kevin Wayne Johnson, Christian author and speaker. We also have scheduled Reverend Stephen L. Turner, who's a Christian author and comedian, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we do hope that you join us. You are able to watch us via Facebook. We should be on YouTube. We may even be on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So hopefully you are it's after church. You're sitting back at home and ready to just dig deep into this conversation. And so just want to thank you for tuning in. Want to remind you that you can visit us online at www.christianauthorsontour.com to find out more information about this group of Christian authors who are on fire for God. So just want you to save the date, December 9th. I don't know about you, but the Dwight E. DeRamus already told me that he has booked his flight and his hotel. He is one of the featured authors, December 9th in Washington, D.C., at the Museum of the Bible. We, Christian Authors on Tour, get ready. We are taking the Museum of the Bible by storm. You will have the opportunity to pay to participate in this event. It's a day-long event, the 2023 Christian Writers Literary Festival, and you'll be able to get a tour of that fabulous museum. So mark your calendars, December 9th. Visit us online, www.christianauthorsontour.com, to get more information. My name is Lynn Pender. I am the CEO of Christian Authors on Tour, and I am so honored to be able to host these brothers today. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to the two of you. Um, I'm going to turn it over to the two of you to take the rim and just introduce yourselves. Just How are you two doing? Good afternoon, good evening.
I know, right?
Yeah,
It's good to see everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
yeah.
yes, 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 yes. So we'll go ahead and get started with introductions. Um, I think Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., you're going to go first.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Christian Authors on Tour um, men's showcase. And I'm excited about this. And Dwight, I know whenever when we get together and we get to talking, it becomes a great thing. So we want to thank everybody for joining us. It's just going to be a great day. Please join us in this first half of the of the event today, and we're just going to have some great conversation, some great dialogue about us as individuals, but then I think collectively, the way we can talk about just as men in general, because there's some things I think that each of us address in each of our books that I think will be great conversation that we can have as well. And then the second half, as Lynn talked about, come on back, go grab that plate that grandmama made or that your mama made or that you made, and come on back at 6 o'clock. And it's going to be none other than Pastor Kevin Wayne Johnson and Pastor Steve Turner. And Lynn, I laughed when you said that Pastor Steve Turner was a comedian. So I'm gonna get on him when he comes on about being a comedian. So, but we want to thank everybody for joining us. As Lynn mentioned, my name is Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. I am an entrepreneur, speaker, consultant, and what I do simply is assist individuals and organizations to bring their vision to reality, and I do that through a couple of different ways. I do that through the business consulting that I talked about, but in addition to that, publishing consulting as well, which is what we're talking about today. We're talking about books, and that process, what that looks like. So you want to be an author, you think that you got you have what you want inside of you, but you're not quite sure how to be able to bring it to reality. That's one of the things that I can assist you with doing. If you're an author that already has books out there, that's something, and you say, well, you know what, I'm kind of looking to do a little more marketing, a little more branding for myself as well. That is something that I can assist you with as well too. So you can connect with me, and we'll put the information out there as far as how you can connect with me while we're having the conversation, or in the midst of the conversation. We'll have it in the comment section as well. But I'll start with just a little bit about me, who I am, what I do. This writing journey that I've been on since 2004. I'm like, man, oh, that goes back a little bit. But since 2004, and actually a little bit, maybe a little bit before then, because my first two books that I wrote were books of poetry. Because I'm a poet. I love poetry, and I started writing poetry back in college, when I was in college, and it was just something to be able to do to get the thoughts that I had in my head out. Some of it was experiences that I'd gone through. Some of it was things that I was seeing that I kind of wanted to speak about. Some of it was things that my friends or people that I knew had gone through. So it came out in the form of poetry, and didn't think of anything of it back then, but came to some years later, wound up showing it to some folks and some friends of mine, and they were like, you know what, you need to think about putting this in a book. And so I was like, I didn't know at the time. I didn't know anything about books or how to get a book written or what that entailed and everything like that. So me being the Christian that I am, I'm like, all right, Lord, well, you done put a bug in my ear, you done put a bug in somebody else's ear for me to be able to do it. Show me how to put this together. Because honestly, when I was first thinking of doing this, I was just like, I knew I did not want to go the traditional route. I didn't want to go finding a an agent, trying to get with with a major publishing company, because I knew that whether it's book publishing, whether it's music, whatever it is, a lot of times when you get with these other companies, they try to tell you what your vision should look like. And I didn't want that. I didn't want someone to tell me what my vision should look like. So I decided to go the entrepreneur route, which was, hey, I was going to be responsible for um, all aspects of my book writing, getting the cover done, making sure that the manuscript was correct, getting the editing done, all of those, to getting the printing done, finding printing companies. That was the work that I was willing to do in order to be able to bring this writing to fruition. And so that's what I started to do with those first two books. And started did my research to try and figure out how this would look, what it would look like. And in the beginning, I didn't think that I had enough poems to be able to go into a book. So I'm like, Lord, look, if you want me to do this, I don't think I have enough. And here's the crazy thing, Dwight, that the more that I started to write, the more I felt I had to say. And
Hmm.
I don't know if other authors have felt like that, but that was the way that it was. And so I did the first two books of poetry, and then at the time I was working in corporate America. So I never felt as if I fit in to corporate America. So I started to see, and this was the mid to late 1990s. So we were going into the new millennium, and I was just like seeing all of these companies that were they had leaders that shouldn't have been in the positions that they were in. The companies were being run into the ground. The Y2K was the big thing. Everybody thought that we were just going to be wiped off the planet of the earth when 2000 hit, and all of those things. So I'm thinking of how corporate America needed to be better. And then I started asking myself, well, okay, if you know what a problem is, then you come with a solution. So I started paying more attention to what was going on in the corporate America. And I'm like, okay, how can I resolve or assist, businesses and being able to run more effectively. So that prompted me to write my first business book, and I have a 3 series business book series called the Building the 21st Century Company. And the first book out of that is The Customer Is Not Always Right. And that came from me. We were always told in business the customer is always right. So I went contrary to what we had been told, because contrary to that belief, we're not always right as customers. And I always tell this story. Do I always tell this story that me and my best friend, right? We went to. She was like, well, she had gotten these rain check tickets to go to see, go to the movie theater, because I think when she had gone originally, something happened and she wasn't able to see the movie, so they gave her these 2 rain check tickets. So she calls me up and she says, hey, I got these tickets. You want to go to the movies? I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's roll. So so we get to the movie theater, and she hands the attendee the tickets. And so he says to her, I'm sorry, ma'am, but these aren't our tickets. These aren't tickets. So she's like, I don't understand what the problem is. I got these tickets, rain check tickets, days ago, however long it was, and it should be valid. I don't understand why we're not going. He's like, ma'am, I'm sorry, but these aren't our tickets. So she's starting to get a little hot under the collar. And so I'm like, all right, let me let me handle this. Let me handle this. So I'm like, I'm sorry. She has these tickets. Says this. They're like, sir, I'm sorry. So they called the manager, and we're talking to the manager, and she's getting a little, loud. I'm getting a little loud, and he was like, if y'all don't leave, we're gonna call the police. So, so, so I was like, all right, well, let's go. Let's roll. She was like, let's go, whatever. So, the way she calls me the next day, and she says, Leroy, she said, I found the tickets. The tickets that she had looked like the rain check tickets, but they weren't the rain check tickets. And of course, they're gonna know their tickets.
Right. Right.
So she was like, well, they were sitting somewhere else or whatever. She's like, I thought I had the tickets. I'm like, what? You did what? I'm like, you about to get me locked up for you and go to jail for you, and you got the wrong tickets. So we as customers are not always right, you know. And we have this ad. I have this saying that the customer is not always right, but they do come first. And I wrote that book because I wanted I wanted companies to be able to and leaders to be able to understand the three components of a successful company was a healthy work environment, creating a healthy work environment, maximizing your productivity, and increasing your bottom line. Any successful company does those three things. So that was the premise of that. But the customer's not always right. I always thought about, hey, there are times there I've had encounters where I was wrong as a customer, but then I've also had an encounter where I've had customers that were totally wrong, but you still had to try and take care of them to the best of your ability and what you could. So that was the premise of writing that book. So when that one came out, that was for corporate America. That was to be able to say, hey, this is how I can assist corporate America in being able to navigate through this leadership issue that we were having, and moving into this 21st century that we're into now. The second book in that series was Young and Gifted, the next generation, the new generation of entrepreneurship, where I took 21 entrepreneurs under the age of 40 who were not in music, sports, or entertainment. And I had them talk about their backgrounds, their histories, why they became entrepreneurs, what made them want to become entrepreneurs, and how they saw their particular industries. And with that, I wanted us to be able to see that there was more to entrepreneurship, or more to making money than just being in music, sports, or entertainment. That you can be successful, that there are everyday entrepreneurs that go to work, that do the work, do their thing, that are doing their thing, that don't have the spotlight shined on them all the time. So that was my way of being able to give entrepreneurs a way of being able to see them, and then understanding the leverage that we create when we're in different industries and represented in different industries in different capacities. So that was that one, and then the third one in that one was the art of leadership, success strategies for the 21st century leader, which is a book about leadership. And it comes from leadership in five different perspectives: the family, government, education, business, and the church, and looking at leadership from those five perspectives, those pillars, which makes up, which makes up our community. That's what a community is comprised of. And when you're a successful leader in one of those or all of those, then you create a successful community. So what that looks like in this 21st century that we're in. And then one of my books that I just kind of loved so much, and I got that one right here. I don't know if y'all can see it, but this is The Power of a Man. Faith, family, finance, and future. I wrote this one after that, and I wanted to write a book for us as men, to understand, to be able to walk in our power as men, in our faith, in our families, in our finances, in our future. Because when we do that, we take our rightful place in our families, and then in our communities, and we impact our communities in a much greater way. So I wanted to do that one, to be able to give us inspiration, because there's so many books out here, there's so much stuff out here for women, but when I looked, there was very few books that talked to men, that spoke to men, that spoke to us as men, and especially that poured into us as men, and us understanding that power that we have as men. So, putting these books together, and this journey that I've been on has been, just absolutely phenomenal. It's been great. And as I started to write my books, I started to get people that asked me, well, I got a book inside of me. How did you go about, how did you go about writing your book? And so that's what prompted me to want to start to do the publishing aspect or the consulting aspect of writing, because there were people that were trying to write, and there were lessons that I learned that I learned throughout my writing process, that helped me. And I wanted to be able to assist other people in their journey so that they didn't have to necessarily bump their head against the wall like I did with certain things, that I could actually show them certain things and understanding the navigating through the publishing, navigating, being able to get the printer that you want, what to look for, having an editor, the importance of that, a graphic designer, who needs to be on your team, all of those things that come with being an author or entrepreneur. And we have to understand that as writers, that it's important of who you have on your team. You must have an editor. You must have a graphic designer. You must have someone that can actually take a look at what it is that you do and do what it is that they do. You don't have to try and do all of it, you know. But you use those people around you and let them do what they do, and you do what you do as well in the writing part of it. So those are kinds of things that got me into where I am today, and then writing the way that I write, and it's taken me to different places, and it's introduced me to to folks that I would not have been introduced to had I not become an author and writer. And that's the great thing about being an author and writer. When you're a part of these different events that you are a part of, you get to meet some phenomenal writers, you get to meet some phenomenal people that support you, or that will that follow you, and kind of kind of like what it is that you have, the message that you have to say, and all of the things that you put out there. So I think that it's a great thing, and I'm grateful for Lynn for doing and creating the Christian Authors on Tour, one, but then two, creating platforms like this where we as men have the opportunity to be able to talk to people, because it gives us the voice, and allows us to be able to say, hey, we're here as well. And then I think the power of the books that we have and the messages that they bring, I think, speaks volumes as well too. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of an insight into who I am, what I do, how I got to be where I am, and in this writing process. And I did have one other book. My last book that I wrote was a book of poetry. So I have 3 books of poetry. I have the Power of a Man. I have the Building the 21st Century book series, and then I had 3 books that I was privy to be as a part of an anthology in. So I love that. That gave me an opportunity as well to be able to be around and amongst some other men, because the 3 books that were a part of an anthology were just men. Dwight, we were just men that wrote in those anthologies, and we were writing about men issues and those things that have to deal with men. So, that's just a little bit about me, and we'll talk a little bit more as we go. But I'm going to now turn the mic over to Brother Dwight and allow him to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is and what he's doing. Brother Dwight, the mic is yours, brother.
All right, greetings, everyone. My name is Dwight DeRamus. I wrote 3 books, but before I talk about the books, let me talk about the genesis of me writing these 3 books. There was a time where I was 19, and my grandmother, the late Anne DeRamus, my paternal grandmother, she once told me, she's like, why don't you ever thought about writing a book? And I was like, no. And she said, you ought to write an autobiography. And I was like, well, Grandma, I'm not famous. Little did I know that she planted a seed into me. And that's where it started when I was 19. But I didn't start writing I didn't start writing until when I was in my 30s. And but before I started, writing the book, I started writing a little bit of poetry, and and this is when Poetry Slam was going on in the 2000s and 2010s, and I entered a few times, especially in the Chicagoland area. I've been to a few places throughout that time, and I wind up compiling the poems into a book, where it led to me write this book here. This is my first book. Look, this looks kind of blurry, but it's a slice of truth. This is the first book. Okay, slice of truth. This is the first book I wrote. Came out in August of 2010, and of course, this book really it talks about each of the topics relates to all of us in every season of life. It connects to our soul. I talk about blackness. I talk about truth and other various topics. So that's one of the things that you and I we have in common. It's the first books we wrote is poetry.
Mm-hmm.
When I was, selling and marketing a slice of truth, one of the things I realized is poetry is like an acquired taste.
Yes.
And you can relate to that. Poetry like an acquired taste. So not many people dig poetry. And I had to like pivot, and I'm like, okay, so I did write my first book. I did write a book on poetry. And oh, by the way, I did dedicate this book to my grandmother because she's the one who planted the seed in my head to write a slice of truth. So I pivot, and then I had to think about, I was like, well, what can I write about that's a little bit more about me? So let me show. So I had to go back and look. I was like, well, let me see a few more things about me. I am a husband. I am a father of two sons. I'm a family man, that type of thing. And I'm also an educator. So I've been in the teaching profession for almost 25 years. And one of the things I noticed is that over the years, and this is more than anecdotal, this is, statistical where you have access to, we teachers have access to student records, and student records, when we put grades and things of that nature in, it lists the mother and it lists the father. And I noticed that the father's information, more than half the time, is blank. The only name is in that information